out, right? Like staking for staking's sake is like is stupid, right? In a sense. And I agree with that, right? But then you look at you look at these three projects that I just mentioned, and one of those that launched their staking protocol has had a much better, you know, return on investment than, you know, looks rare and potentially what Blur might do. I mean, these guys at Blur are smart. I don't think they're just going to launch staking for staking's sake. But if you could stake,
Yeah.
like, if you could stake to earn I mean, the marketplace is free, right? So you can't like stake to earn any kind of discounts like on the product side. But maybe to your point, like if you could use the token and kind of, um, even just get discounts off the floor and have the Blur itself kind of comp the delta on the floor price. It's like,
Yeah, like they put a 10%, premium for people trading on Blur. But let me ask you this, if you know, please. What is the value proposition, royalty savings wise, between Blur and LooksRare?
I mean, Blur is free, right? Looks rare. They charge a fee. I don't know what the fee is. I don't remember off the top of my head, but Blur marketplace fees are free, and on both platforms, royalties are optional, with the caveat that Blur has a minimum royalty. So like Blur's minimum royalty is 0.5%, whereas on LooksRare, I'm not 100% sure, but I think royalties are optional on LooksRare as well. I might be mistaken though. I haven't used LooksRare in a really long time. But it's just competing on fees is really the thing there. And again, like to the second point, right, on fees, like what is sort of like the like what is the like the business model? Like a lot of questions are still like really not clear on the business model of Blur too, right? So there are no marketplace fees, right? They turned on optional royalties or minimum royalties, but those royalties go to creators, right? It's not like it's going to Blur. So in absence of, I mean, what would happen if they, for instance, like turned on a fee switch, right? Like how many people would probably, how would their volume be, I guess, impacted by turning that fee switch on, right? Do you think the product itself could compete with like a 1%, minimum enforced fee, or could they even charge like 2.5%, which is what OpenSea charges, and will they suffer churn as a result of that? Or maybe like for people who don't have the token, again, this is all speculation, but in absence of knowing like what the utility of the token is, like again, you're just left with tons of ideas that may or may not be true, on what this token can do, and again, it's like standard practice to launch with the white paper. So I'm a little taken aback by the fact that they didn't launch with any kind of documentation about the token is kind of my thing here. But would love to hear from other people if anybody else is interested in it. This is what I do every day, so might come off as a little critical, but I literally do this every day. So yeah, Rose, what do you have here?
Yeah, you brought up a really interesting point, because I think in terms of for these marketplaces to be a real business model with revenue streams, with the 0% like marketplace fee, and then like you mentioned, so far it's with royalties, but they're going to have to sustain a business over time. And I really thought that with the tokens, it was going to make just the usability and adoption of it like more sticky, but without information, then you kind of see what the market's doing to it, right? They're just not going to keep the token, which again, in this space, it's so bizarre when people do like product launches where it's like, we don't know what is next for us to make decisions on. So we'll just move away from it. But yeah, curious to see if they're going to talk more about it or share more. But it's just also like from a just general business practice sense, like how are they going to sustain it? Because otherwise it just feels like a pass through, UI aggregation so that we can all transact. But then what else? What else do they have planned that would require us to like be more invested in using Blur versus another platform?
Yeah, I mean, and again, I think the product like stands as a class of its own. It's geared towards
Right.
traders. It's a great product, but at least the way that I think about tokenomics is that if you're able to design tokenomics to supplement the product, like you have a really powerful combination, like very similar to what Binance does with BNB. Like it can't like it's a top 5 token for a reason, right? Like the token's health is tied very closely to the centralized exchange's health, and as one grows, the other grows as well, and to the negative too. But just from a tokenomics practitioner's point of view, it's great that Blur got listed on so many exchanges on day one. OKX, KuCoin, Coinbase, Kraken, and a bunch of other like tier 2, tier 3 exchanges, which is really great to see. Centralized exchanges, like whatever you think about them, like they are a gateway to the industry, and they have, at least Coinbase has like the largest depth of liquidity, right? So it's also somewhat of a stamp of approval to get your token listed on exchange. Not every token gets listed on exchange, and there are parameters that you have to adhere to for an exchange. And obviously, Coinbase being Coinbase, they have the most rigorous listing requirements, and even just like when we were doing the launch of ApeCoin, like getting the Coinbase listing, like it is kind of a Herculean feat in itself compared to the rest of the exchanges. So, I'll give credit where credit is due in terms of getting that listed on the exchange, and they designed the airdrop pretty well. It's just the other side of it, right? When you think of tokenomics as a whole, and this goes for NFTs as well, right? Like, so like what is the utility of like the NFT, right? Like what are the sinks for the token? How can you spend the token? How can you actually use it beyond just farming rewards? Is the other side of the equation. Because the supply side stuff is relatively easy, but the demand side stuff, and actually incentivizing people to purchase your token and then hold it is a completely different skill set and totally different design considerations need to be made, because it's what drives the health of your token.
My opinion, this project on a bull market would outperform. I saw people shame selling a guy that bought a clone for 120 ETH and sold for 87 ETH without knowing the person's liquidity need. Some people with kids and mortgages, they have shit to pay. So people sell. And right now, the way I see the global economy, people are not going to sit on, token. They're going to send it to ETH, BTC, or dollars and pay for shit. So I don't think, I think it's kind of an easy one here.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. Again, it's just like from a token point of view, like is that like what they wanted to achieve? Like, did they just want to? And maybe that is right. Maybe what they wanted was to just airdrop people, free ETH, right, to then spend on the Blur platform. That could also be the case too. And so what on the other side of that equation is like the token price, suffering as a result of that. So yeah, I'm not sure. I'm really excited to see what the white paper might have in store, if there is one. But Kaiba, what's up, man? Would love to get your thoughts on this as well.
Yeah, man, I wish I would have saw when this started earlier, because I bet you probably touched on some really good stuff already. But I think, it's always exciting, whenever we get an airdrop like this, it's fun. But I could see, utility for this token being maybe worth it if they can provide something, to the effect of stake X amount of tokens and your trading continues to be, zero marketplace royalties. There's something to really bring holders into a position of, yes, these tokens do give me value because I'm a high volume trader, and not paying royalties or marketplace fees has saved me a ton of money. Yeah. I think that's kind of the direction that I would expect it to go, but I don't know. I mean, what if, I guess, can you give me like a quick synopsis of what you talked about already?
My synopsis is I really want to fuck some white women right now. I want to go to Russia.
Hmm. What was the question?
I maybe that was the answer.
Yeah.
Just looking for like give me a quick synopsis so I don't repeat anything you already may
Yeah,
have said or
look, my,
something.
my question is right. So like, we got the token, it's a great product. We've all been using it for months. My question is like, what do you do with the token, right? And part of that answer could have been answered by, white paper. Um, but in absence of, launching without a white paper, people are just going to sell it. And I actually have not seen Franklin tweet about his drop. So that's an interesting data point too, right? Like I think people were kind of memeing like, oh, uh, what are you gonna do with your tokens? Well, like hopefully I can sell before Franklin does, right? And so I haven't seen his tweet about it, to claim his tokens. But my point was just that, we've got this token. It's a bear market. What do we do with it? And oh wow, okay. So he tweeted 30 minutes ago. He got 54,000 Blur tokens. Um, which is about, wow, that's it. That's only about 36,000 USD. I would have thought he got more.
I thought I saw he got 540,000.
Oh,
another zero.
sorry, yeah, my bad. I totally misread that. That's
540
like
from 593.
$300,000. Yeah. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. Yeah, it's about 360 grand. And let me look at the volume really quickly. Yeah, so as like just these volume blocks are in like 15-minute increments, and like in 15 minutes, in the last 15 minutes, the token has traded $224,000 in volume. So if Franklin were to just market dump the token, like it would cause a mass sell off, which I think people understand, and get and is expected, right? But anyways, my point, Kaiba, was I'm just curious, right? Like, what do people think about the token as a whole? And like what are like success factors for the token itself? Like, was their goal in launching the token just to kind of give people stimulus to swap to ETH, to then use on Blur, or are they expecting people to hold it for some news? Because they did not announce, but they kind of they have like an idea map, like a soft roadmap with like a lot of redacted stuff. So there will be utility for it. Like they have art blocks on here. They have a section for tokenomics. They have 1155s. They have Liquidity Project X, Mine for something, loyalty rewards. So there's something coming for the token. It's just odd to me for, as somebody who works in the industry, to see this token come about without a white paper, even if it's in the pseudo, foundation language that a lot of tokens, have to adhere to because of, you know, compliance issues. But to have no information or documentation on the token is a really weird thing that I just quite simply never seen, from a otherwise high quality project, right? Like you come out with some shitcoin, you're not expecting a white paper, but even Bonk Inu had a light paper. So it's interesting to see, and I just wanted to open up to the room and see if others have thoughts on this, or what their takes are.
Okay, dope. I mean, I think it's interesting that they're already promoting season 2 as well. So it might be a good thing to see that this isn't just like all in one dump of tokens, that, there is more supply coming for season 2, and who knows what's beyond that. So maybe if they factored into a multiplier. But the thing I wouldn't want to see is kind of what happened with a lot of DeFi projects, where they create, these faucets that money's coming out of. But it all just ends up coin stacking on top of coins. And then the moment there's a sell pressure, all of a sudden it goes to zero. So I don't know. I mean, what are people thinking so far about how they could actually give it a value? or utility.
Yeah, I mean, in absence of knowing anything, right? Like it's really hard to tell. If you just go on Blur, like if you go on, if they if they if they go like the staking route, right? Like all of these sinks, like all of these faucets, like all these sources of emissions are great when tokens are like pumping and you can obviously compound your rewards, but like without any uses of the token, without any sinks, it's gonna fall the way that all these other looks rare competitive like fork tokens are gonna go, which is trending towards zero. Um, and my view is also like I'm all for competition in the space. I think there's a lot to take, a lot of market share. Whoa, there's a lot of market share to take from OpenSea, and Blur is obviously tapping into a very different user base. But I think a lot of that could be supplemented by a token with the proper sinks is kind of what I'm getting at. And again, at TGE, we just don't know what those sinks are, and perception is everything in this space, right? So without knowing that, people are just going to sell it like they're doing.
I think I've been thinking about ApeCoin a little bit too lately on, the
Yeah.
staking rewards that apes are getting, and then kind of the utility of the token. It's been impressive, especially with Dookie Dash coming out and that being kind of a main sink for the token, a main place to spend it and get utility from it. But there's also like this big reward attached to the end of it. If you get first place, you get this, one of one type of thing. And maybe the better you do, the more rare of an item you get. But that model isn't sustainable either, because they can't just have 10,000 one of ones out there either. So I don't know. It's just so hard to think like 5 years, which is an eternity in this world. How do you create like a burn mechanic, whether it's gamification or utility, that has survived? I mean, we really haven't seen anything besides Ethereum, live that long.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I think so. We brought up ApeCoin too, right? And the difference between ApeCoin staking and LooksRare staking is really interesting, right? When you think about it, um, and I think a lot of the utility that comes from ApeCoin staking itself is like it's like apes are super diamond handed, right? So like they're expecting that, okay, I'm going to accumulate this token and I'm not going to sell it and I'm going to use it in the other side to play with it or to have some future utility. In this case, like the most immediate utility for ape was to boost in Dookie Dash, right? But like a lot of that sentiment is from their core holder base, like the apes and the mutants and stuff like that, right? Like people always say don't fade Yuga, and the difference between ApeCoin and LooksRare is like LooksRare has a product. ApeCoin doesn't necessarily have a product yet, or it's being built. They both launched staking, but one token has outperformed significantly compared to the other, right? And part of that has to do with like community, right? Like the people who are diamond handing ApeCoin are the direct users of the token, right? Um, and again, like I was saying earlier, that looks rare and Blur, like they don't have that core base. Even if Blur were to turn on staking, like my assessment in absence of any sinks, like it's just gonna go the same way that looks rare is gonna go, because there's no way to actually use your compounded tokens other than to just sell them.
It's funny because that's kind of like, I mean, what's made me so bullish on NFTs in the first place is like the idea that if you're in a community of people that want to own something and don't want to sell it, then the price goes up as long as new people are wanting to buy it, right? And then ultimately you can leverage against those positions to have liquidity. But, it takes so much conviction to build that community up. And it seems like, I mean, apes have that token. Apes are that community. I don't know that there's any others out there that really could sustain a token like that, though. That type of conviction.
Yeah, I mean it's yet to be seen, right? I think Well, that's why like to me at least NFT tokens are super interesting, right? Because you have a core base that could otherwise be, could diamond hand a token, right? Like that would be dropped to them. Potentially, right? Potentially, of course. But like DeFi projects don't have community as strong as NFT projects do, right? And so when you pair community and like a fungible token and NFTs together, you get a really powerful combination, as we see with ApeCoin. But it's yet to be proven beyond obviously the top NFT project, in this space. Like if another project could launch a token and kind of try and battle test, the ApeCoin model, like I would love to see it. And obviously, I mean, I'd love to work on it. Like we were working with another NFT like community that was going to do it, but they kind of went in a different direction. So it's tough, but it's also super powerful, right? Because you combine all of these different forces into one thing, and if you're able to really design an ecosystem around it, you could reach some proportion of what the ape ecosystem has sort of built. But yeah, I just wanted to talk. I see we have like about 40 or so people in the audience. If anyone wants to come up and just talk about the drop, or if you think it went well, by all means do. The stage is open. But if not, I can close it down too. If there's nothing else.
Are you thinking anything about why it's being prohibited in the U.S.?
Oh my God, I totally forgot about geo-blocking. How could I forget about geo-blocking? Wow. As a contributor to the ApeCoin staking protocol, you don't even know the amount of FUD that we got for the geo-blocking issue on ApeCoin staking. Oh my God, that's such a great segue. I mean, look, like there are laws, in the United States, and then there are more absence of laws in the United States as it relates to like these crypto assets, right? So they hired a smart legal team to advise them on the launch, right? Just like any other protocol would, any smart protocol. Like that's kind of the difference that I like to think of, between high quality tokens that are launched and just kind of like degen tokens, right? Like degen token, you just spin up a token contract and you launch it, right? Whereas if you take legally compliant, air quotes, legally compliant approach to token launch, I say it in air quotes just because like there's no like set frame for token launches, but you can take certain steps to adhere the best you can to securities laws, and part of that, is geo-blocking in the United States, like we saw with ape staking, and now like we saw with the claim for the Blur token. So yeah, I don't know what exactly flip the switch from the legal side when we were doing the ape staking protocol, but the lawyers advised to geo-block it, and that's why it was geo-blocked, and same thing here, right? Like these are smart people at Blur. They're backed by Pantera. It's not like a degen like project, right? At least I hope it's not. And they took the necessary steps to kind of CYA from a legal point of view, and yeah, I mean, look, like I was saying this the other day, like regulations are coming, and it's going to be a huge theme going forward, for the NFT space and the fungible token space especially. There we go. Shekinah, let's see. Now we're cooking. Shekinah, you're up.
Yeah, no, I came up you brought up the point that I've been wanting to bring up like all day since I got the notification, of like, hey, you're not allowed.
Yeah.
And you said everything that I wanted to say, because I do have a client and I'm like, that's doing some stuff, and I'm like, and I was like late last night, you guys saw me on the spaces, on Compound Spaces. I was up because I was trying to figure out what to do with this client's, it's not Dead Fellows, okay? But like with this other client's, like they're trying to do it with tokens, and I was just like going through so many terms of service and just trying to do so much reading. And I'm just like, I think I'm just gonna look. You're at the geo block. Like, I don't see what you can do. But what I found very interesting is this like the future, like what we're seeing? Like, is this what? Because everyone's been saying it, like even on the Hill, meaning Capitol Hill.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you're gonna run business overseas if you don't think about it. You don't come out with some type of favorable like regulation, and you need to do it. And this seems to be just the beginning of that, and that's wild to be in the U.S. and be blocked. I mean, on Twitter that could, like Vincent and who else told us, and like all Susan doesn't seem to be in here anymore, and Carol, etc., who are like, go here, do this, and yeah, those tools are always going to be out there, and they're going to get better so that we're able to access what's going to be, what's seemingly going to be overseas. But I think that's so crazy. And then, but the one question I would love to ask, and none of their legal, is ever going to get on a call, and maybe I'll get in my legal chat and I'll ask this question. But one thing I would ask, because I was working with a client early last year, so this is early 2022, and they were kind of working on like a whole a DAO thing, and they were going to do a coin, and we had gotten a letter from the SEC, just to kind of say, what are you doing? Because there was some stuff that came out, like we were in like some press, and we got a letter, and so we, of course, like I don't do litigation and I'm not a securities lawyer, and so we hired a major law firm to kind of like help us with it, and that law firm has people that formerly worked in the SEC, and so could have some deep connections, and and what that law firm said to us was, well, yeah, just because you do this, it doesn't matter like that you're necessarily outside of the country doing this. If the primary people that use it are in the U.S., that could still give the SEC, like
Right.
that would give them footing. And so I think that's the reason for the geo blocking, because you can't control people, using VPNs, because how you can't.
Yeah.
But you can say, well, we geo block. We are not allowing it. We've done everything we can do to not allow people from the U.S. That's within our means. So I think that's the reason for the geo blocking. But I'm very curious to I have not gotten to my legal lawyers chat, but and I will talk to them and get some more, ask some questions, and come back to y'all later tonight. But I'm curious, like, what are other ways? Is geo blocking enough, and what are other ways to kind of protect, companies that are innovating? But gosh, I hope the U.S. does something, because I don't know, that I was shocked. I'm not gonna lie, when I saw, oh my, like, I'm not allowed to get free money. Like, that's not okay.
Right.
So
right.
yeah, I need to move. It was the other thing that that also, lit a fire under me. I need to get a place in the US, obviously somewhere that's cheap, but I need to just relocate. It only makes sense.
Well, so I actually I found the docs. So there's the white paper. There is documentation on the token. So I can eat my words in the first 20 minutes of the space. I knew that they weren't going to launch this without a token. Any kind of documentation. It's not a white paper per se, but it is documentation. So that's really great to see. So they've launched, in the traditional way that U.S. based, air quotes, compliant token launches go with the foundation and governance, right? A DAO on day one. I'm just reading this in real time, so it might bear with me here, but yeah. So there are three main categories of Blur improvement proposals. The first one is a core category. It requires on-chain actions. Again, I'm just reading this from the docs. Let's see. The process for implementation, which is pretty standard. Okay, and then there are different phases, right? So research, very similar to like how ApeCoin does, like minimum discussion. So I think, yeah, let's see. What's this research form? Is it like... Okay, so it's on discourse. Yep. So they've got discourse, snapshot. Okay, great. Yeah. Okay, and they also have proposal thresholds. That's something very interesting. So they have a proposal threshold. That's something that ApeCoin doesn't have. The ApeCoin DAO. So it looks like, let's see, community members who are delegated minimum of tokens are able to submit a proposal that are subject to a 14-day voting period. After the 14 days, if a proposal receives a minimum support from a majority of the participating voters, with 30 million yes votes, it can proceed to an on-chain execution vote. Let's see. Yep. So they're using Snapshot and they're using Tally, which is a sort of like an execution platform for like on-chain like governance and proposals. So that's really cool. That's really great. I'll probably need some more time to like look into this, but the next section is on tokenomics. Okay, so it's a 3 blocks. Let's see. So, okay, wow. Okay, so they've broken it down into 4 different distinct categories. So 50% to community, right? So of that 50%, I would say, the airdrop is a part of. So what's available, right, is really like, kind of like 1 minus the airdrop composition. 29% to past and future contributors, unlocking over 4 years. 20% to investors. Wow. So investors have 20% allocation, unlocking over 4 years. And then 1% to advisors, right? So that's interesting. Let's see if there's anything interesting about the community treasury. Okay, so yeah, so that 12%, it's a 12% airdrop, which is actually in line with what I had thought. I was saying probably a max of 15, just given this is like a real product, right? Like a true product, oriented token. If I was working on this token deal, I would have advised 15% allocation for the airdrop as well. They did just under that, so 12%. Okay. Let's see. With 12% available claimed, yeah, so 39% of the Blur supply will be available to distribute to the community through grants. And that's a really powerful thing about like these tokens, right? It's really cool that, it's cool in one way that you can essentially print money out of like nothing. I mean, in absence of, a publicly disclosed token sale or, like a pre-sale, right? Like it's impossible to set price. Like price discovery is impossible. Therefore, valuation can oftentimes be tricky to triangulate, right? But here we see this is about $1.5 billion fully diluted, I think. Let's see, what was it? Okay. Yeah, so let me calculate that really quickly. It's like 0.64 times 3,000. Yeah, so that's like just under 2 billion fully diluted, which is cool. Like I had thought about this probably being in the 1.5 range fully diluted, but yeah, we have price discovery in sort of the, call it 60 cent, 70 cent range. And that results in, just under 2 billion fully diluted and in a market cap of 238 million. But again, what I'm getting at is, crypto is like provided a really interesting opportunity for protocols and ecosystems to kind of be their own like monetary governor, right? You can create an ecosystem and you can fund proposals out of relatively, thin air. Like what justifies the valuation of, ApeCoin or even ENS, right? Like two of the largest kind of like NFT based ecosystems that have a fungible token that actually pay out grants and let people build protocols on top of the token. It's a really powerful tool. And yeah, I mean, we're seeing Blur here and them kind of even launching with a DAO is very different than what LooksRare did. Like LooksRare doesn't have an ecosystem grants process. Maybe they're building that in time, but as of right now, they don't have that. And that's kind of like, we're in this space where things like, you need to make money off of them. Like they've got a ton of the token supply. Well, let me see. Yeah, so their allocation is most likely in the contributors bucket. But they've got, and that's fair, right? Like that's okay. We're here to make money too, but at the same time, with a token, you have sort of this unique opportunity to create like quasi public goods, right? By way of ecosystem grants. like Blur is doing, and like ApeCoin is doing, and like ENS is doing, right, and Uniswap, and so that's really cool to see. I think a lot of my comments earlier I can kind of walk back because there is some documentation. Two, they're using the foundation model to distribute the tokens, I would assume, and three, like eventually, uh, there will be public goods that are built on top of Blur, obviously benefiting the ecosystem of Blur, which is totally fine. That's the point, is to kind of have people build on top of the protocol to enhance the actual product. But it gives a lot of other people opportunities to get contract work, to build products and businesses and services that rely on top of the Blur protocol. So I actually think that overall, this this was a pretty great, compared to, and I don't have like a tracker of recent like token launches, but this definitely stacks up as a great token launch. I'll give it like probably like a B, I would say. I don't know, maybe like a B minus, right? And again, in absence of sinks, right? Like that's my thing, right? Like what was interesting about ApeCoin is that they had a catalyst, right? Kind of immediately after the token, right? It was to mint other side in the native token. Um, so that extra step like probably would have got them to A minus range, but for purposes of kind of giving it a grade, I think I'd give it like a B minus. I'm not too sure. I never graded a token, so I'm just shooting from the hip here. So bear with me on that front. But yeah, a lot of the fundamentals of the token are great. Like launch, the launch sequencing, getting it on exchange, and having this foundation, and designing a really cool airdrop that really made the platform go viral. Like the timeline was filled with all these Blur posts, right? And also the mechanism to claim your boxes, to actually have to tweet and verify that you made the claim is really like, that's really unique, like gamification that I haven't seen in any, after looking into it on a more in-depth basis. Although the docs are very sparse, this is literally the bare minimum you'd have to put out. But I guess that's okay, right? um I think that's all right. So I'll give this a B. I'll give this a solid B. I'll take away the B minus. I'll lock in a B. Curious, like what do others think on this? I see Ice Ape is up. Maybe he or she has some comments on the token. Or not. It might. Okay.
No, it's because I have this person blocked, so they're here to try and find out why. But I'm not going to tell them.
Yeah, we also. Oh my god. We got played in the.
Yo, if they're looking for closure from me, they're never going to get it. Ask my exes. We all friends still.
Sorry, closure from what, Kiro?
Yo, they want closure as to why I blocked them on every account that they have and how I knew which accounts were all theirs. Listen, man. I know a lot of shit. And I just been holding my tongue for a long time. That's why I came out fucking firing fucking full clips. They're either gonna take this advice, or they're gonna fail. So that's what it is.
I feel that. All right, go. I know you, so I'm gonna accept. Maybe you have some thoughts on the token launch. Are you selling your Blur? Are you holding it? What's the move?
Hi.
Yo.
I was connecting. Sorry. I missed that, Vincent.
Yeah, no problem. We're just talking Blur, tokenomics, the drop, and kind of how people are thinking about it, if they're holding it beyond the drop, or maybe taking some profits here and holding it into something else.
Yeah, I've never touched Blur because I've never cared for it this whole time, so I definitely wasn't gonna get an airdrop. Um, so I'm just here spectating and definitely interested to hear what the experience was like today. Um, I've spent the first half of the day offline, so I think from what I can hear,
Yeah.
Kuro was like, rah, Blur. Also, I wasn't,
No,
I,
no, no. Blur's all
I
good.
wasn't in, I
I like
wasn't in
Blur.
Fuck the Name earlier, but like I caught a minute of the recording, and he was like, "Ah, this is lunch money." So that's funny to me too. Love you, Kuro. Um,
Yeah, but a Wagyu steak is like $170, so it is lunch money.
I mean, okay, sure. From that perspective, sure.
I see just in the last 24 hours, some projects might be benefiting from, you know, this sort of catalyst, like just in terms of, last 24-hour volume. Actually, I'll do last six. Let's see what this looks like on the 6 hour basis. Yeah, so mutants are up 100% in volume. Beans are up 700%. Azuki is up 280%. People are buying Pudgy Penguins. They're up 270%. Apes are up 7%. Doodles are up 13%. Digi Daigaku 50%. Renga 270%. That's interesting. So Renga's at 1.4 ETH and they're up 200%. 700 on Beans. So those two are kind of leading the last 6 hour sort of mark. And I think that's because there's smaller collections and people, I don't know what someone's going to come out with a Dune dashboard on like the median amount that's been dropped to people on this airdrop, or maybe Blur might come out with that themselves. But odds are people aren't getting multiple ETH dropped to them, especially with the price nuking from 5 to 60 cents. So it makes sense that these smaller collections in the 1 ETH range are really ripping in terms of volume. Other deeds are down 50%. CloneX down 26% in terms of volume. But yeah, I mean, look, I don't think it's enough. Like this is not enough to like make any kind of step change in demand for NFTs or to even really drive volume on any kind of recurring basis. If you just think about the amount of people who are eligible to claim, the token, it's tens of thousands of users, right? So that 12% is diluted across many hundreds of thousands of people. Whereas if you think about the tokenomics for the ApeCoin drop, right, it was super accretive because there was a theoretical limit, right, of the amount of people who could claim the tokens. So 10,000 for the apes and 20,000 for the mutants. And so that at least puts a triangulation of value for how much is applicable to these NFT holders. Whereas with Looks Rare and with Blur, there's essentially an infinite amount of people who would be eligible to claim, right? Like if it's not like the air quotes supply or the amount of holders is set in stone like NFT supplies are. There are tens of thousands of traders, and for every one trader, they probably have 3 wallets that they've traded on, right? So that's probably why you're not seeing this big bull run that maybe some people. And I'm not saying like a bull run, but I'm just saying like a huge step change in demand in terms of volume for NFT projects, given that this is an NFT marketplace drop. People can kind of associate that with an increase in volume. So yeah, I mean, look, overall it's a really interesting drop, and there are really cool things that they've done. They got it listed on exchange. They launched with sort of a DAO on day one. All very similar things that we did on ApeCoin. Although I will say that we got the token listed on 50 exchanges on day one, so it's a little different than yeah. But
So is
yeah,
anyone, Vincent,
yeah.
is there any talk of like mass amount of people trying to qualify for this using VPN over in the US?
Oh, I mean, yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, what else would you do if you live in the United States? How else would you claim it, right? You have to use a VPN.
No, I'm just saying, like, any success with it, or is it people just saying, well, that's the only method, let's go for it?
I'm sure there are people in the United States who have claimed, by way of VPN. Everyone, people did that. People are doing that with ape staking. A lot actually are going even beyond that and staking through the contract, which is really cool to see. But yeah, I mean, look, like it's a lot easier to use a VPN, I would assume. Jace.
Yeah. So I've been on mobile and I haven't wanted to connect to anything because I'm on airport Wi-Fi right now. But what you just said, if it's at 60 cents, I got 4,200 and something blur dropped to me. Basically, I got 2,500 bucks sent to me.
Yep.
If I'm being really dumb.
About, yeah, 60. It's like 62, and you said what, 4,200? It's
Yeah,
about
4,200 something.
$2,600.
Okay. Well, I'm pissed. I got on the plane and that floor clone with the white beard was at 6 ETH. Somebody picked it up and just relisted at 7 ETH. I was like, come on. I mean, that's still super low. But I was like, come on. But now with this blur, maybe I will go fight some of that gas and get, that gets me that extra ETH to go grab that extra clone I want.
Gas is definitely tapered off. I, like an idiot, claimed and paid about $30 for the transaction to go through, and then for me to sell, I was going to sell the tokens. I don't care, I'll say it, but I was going to sell, and I didn't have enough ETH in my wallet. Like the swap on Uniswap would have cost like $60. I had like 58 left over in my wallet, and so I sent from Coinbase to my wallet, and it didn't come for like 45 minutes. Like the network was so jammed from people trying to claim this and do whatever, right? Like I kind of put a tweet out, like people are so desperate for like something to do, right? Like they're just gonna claim it like in the first few minutes of trading, right? And network definitely jammed from that, but things are slowing down, so you'll probably get favorable gas if you claim, whenever you get off the plane.
I'm hoping they have some like little alpha drop they'll do or something to give people an incentive to buy back and
Yeah.
then, get
Well,
that going.
yeah.
Right? Like what apes did with the mech drawings, right? They're like, oh, okay, passes are going down. Watch this, guys. We're gonna drop this little piece of art. It's gonna get you all speculating, and then passes doubled.
Well, even right, even at TGE, if you remember with ApeCoin, like the main sink, like the main reason to hold on was to mint other deeds in ApeCoin. And that's a really interesting sort of strategy that I would actually like to see other projects employ. Like having, like, it's tough enough to get to TGE. Like it is a Herculean effort to launch a token and to do it obviously in a legally compliant manner, and get all the ducks in a row and launch on the day they said they were going to do it, right? Like ApeCoin got pushed back like for many weeks and months, right? But these guys said, hey, we're launching on the 14th and it's coming, and it came. So kudos to them. But again, like the reason why I give this kind of like a B is because there's not another side to the token. There's there's no reason to hold the token as per the docs or to use it in on the product. So yeah, it's still early days for like these kind of app specific tokens. So we'll get there, but that's sort of my reasoning to give them a B on the launch itself.
Totally. Well, see, and I just hope like I can see them sitting there at their little table with all their Zooms on, and all of them chatting. They're like, okay, everyone's gonna dump the token. What do we do? How do we stop the bleeding on day one? Right? Like, or at least you would hope that's the conversation.
They're smart guys, right? Like they're smart people. So
Right.
I would be shocked if something doesn't come. It's just like, okay, are you gonna wait, right? Like, are you willing to wait and risk, having $2,500 be, evaporated down to 700, right? If there are in fact no sinks for it immediately.
Sadly, that's my
Yeah.
MO, right? Ride it all the way down. Actually, I sell a lot at the high. I've done a lot of that, but still, I ride a lot of things to the bottom, hoping and
Yeah.
praying, right?
Yeah. I'm adding this to my internal token tracker. Just for like, my job type thing.
And don't feel bad about that not having enough. When I wanted to pick up this mutant that I threw up as my PFP on the bad take space, I actually didn't have enough for the gas on this thing, and that gas was super low, but I didn't have enough, and so I was like, wait, I'm buying this mutant and I don't have enough ETH for the gas. Come on.
Yeah.
It pissed me off.
Wait, so Vince, how much blur did you get?
Excuse me, Cram. No, just kidding. I got 892 tokens.
Oh, nice, pretty solid, pretty solid. Yeah, I got like
Yeah.
1,200. I just I
Okay.
sold I sold at 72 cents. I was kind of in a similar situation as you where I didn't have enough to claim it, and then I didn't have enough to swap it either. So I kept getting stuck, just waiting for gas to drop. But gas is at like 80 now. So if anyone hasn't claimed yet, now is a perfect time to claim. I was really looking at the 75 cent range, and I got to 72. I was like, I'll just take it. It's free money,
Right.
and again, I look at it like it's a bear market. We're still in a
Yep.
bear market, regardless of what people are thinking. Maybe we're in a small little uptrend here, but overall, the macro, we're still in the bear. So, and if we look at the past, like X2Y2 and Looks and all those other airdrops that happened, those happened during the bull market, and they still don't, right?
See, and Cram,
So
that's what I'm hoping they were smart enough to see, right? Like, to see that and go, okay, how are we not going to do this? But I don't have any speculation to add to that. There's just hopes and dreams, but I'm really hoping they saw that, or else there's not a lot of hope for some of these companies out here if they can't see and figure out something to do with this.
Yeah.
no, I agree. And overall, though, I feel like it was a pretty good drop. Like Vince gave it a B. Well, I'd probably give it a B or so as well. Just because, I mean, again, we're in a bear market. They dropped it. They somehow were able to maintain this price. It's still holding at like 60 cents. When it originally like opened and everyone was kind of claiming, I saw it drop to 25 cents because I grabbed the contract address and I immediately went over to Uniswap, just kind of pasted it in there, and then I can see the blur to USDC pairing like live, like real time, instead of going to CoinMarketCap, CoinGecko, refreshing, and that wasn't like accurate data. So I'm like, man, like I think a lot of people made money just literally trading the coin, buying it at 20 or 30 cents and selling it at 60 cents, stuff like that. A lot of opportunity presenting itself for sure.
Chain Ninja, you got your hand up. Or blockchain grumple.
What's going on, man? I just wanted to encourage everyone to keep claiming and trading Blur because I opened a position on it and I already made my fees back and everything. So please keep trading it. It's doing great right now.
How dare you?
Pump the bags! Pump the bags!
How dare you pump all of our bags that we want to sell?
I mean, buy or sell. It's benefiting me both ways. Like I had a wide position, 3% fee on it, so I'm doing pretty good.
Where did you seed your liquidity and what pairs did you use?
Weath and Blur, and I did it on it was a Uniswap V3 position.
Okay, nice. Congrats. That's I might think about doing the same thing, honestly. Like, why not?
So I got a feeling, I don't know if you guys talked about this already, but typically when one project comes out and they do their kind of airdrop, we might see a few other projects kind of do the same thing. So I got a feeling this might be the start of like airdrop season. And again, like you gotta think like MetaMask, like that mask token. They've talked about that, like a little bit here and there.
Uh-oh.
but basically, yeah, I think so MetaMask. I mean, I hope this drops soon. Maybe not now, but maybe in the next few months or whatnot, once the market kind of gets ready to turn around. But maybe there's some other projects literally looking to do some airdrops. So I would be kind of wary if you guys see new airdrops pop up, because some of those could be scams,
That's a good point too.
honeypots,
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
People tend to like jump on trends, and obviously we've been waiting for this airdrop for a while, but people can literally spin this up very quickly, copy paste a lot of this.
Yep.
So just be on the lookout. Don't want anybody to get. So like this one, I was kind of scared to like connect to it because I had a lot of stuff in the wallet that all my boxes were in.
Uh-oh.
So I waited for at least 20 or 30 people. Like, hey, did you get yours? You got yours? Hey, are you good? Are your assets good? And then once I got confirmation, then I went for it. I try not to be first with these type of things. It's not worth it.
Right. Well, look, I think a B is it's a good grade. I don't know what an A would be. Maybe I'm biased. I think, by way of working on ApeCoin, that was an A plus 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 plus. But if people hold a different opinion, I'm happy to, debate that. Again, just benchmarking against ApeCoin, right? Like, ApeCoin had the DAO on day one, had proposals on day one too, right? So like there were multiple AIPs that were pre-authored that went out for a vote on day one. Blur doesn't have any proposals, but they do have the DAO, and they do have the DAO skeleton and have all the tooling ready. It's just a matter of turning that on. I do think that Blur really gamified it in a really, really unique way that has never been seen before, both on the 3-phased airdrop, method, as well as requiring people to tweet that, hey, I claimed my boxes and I claimed my X amount of Blur. I think like tactics like that are super like cool to see, and are, they're growthy, they're kind of spammy, but it gets people talking about it. It gets people interested in it, like, oh wow, like Blur, like it's here, like finally, let me go claim, right? And so to that point, I think they killed it. They actually, I think they set a precedent. I've never seen that happen before. So I think this was a great success. I'm really interested to see if they can redefine the marketplace token landscape. I really hope that they bake in some real utility for the token. Right now it's not here, and it's anyone's guess as to if they're going to announce something tomorrow or in a week from now or in a month from now that, hey, if you stake, like they can write a smart contract for you to stake like the amount of tokens that you got airdrops to get some kind of utility. So, right, like how do you price, like it's a difficult thing to price things in tokens that would otherwise bring a company revenue, right? So like a fee switch or a discount on NFT purchases, but if you maybe tie it to the amount of tokens that were dropped to you, like that's a really interesting way to think about like really segmenting the price points of different consumers to give them additional utility. So if you had to stake 1x of your dropped tokens, then you get some kind of utility, or 2x or 3x, right? But we'll see. I think there's a lot to unpack here, and we'll probably see it in the few coming weeks, hopefully. But yeah, congrats to the Blur team. And if there's nothing else, like I think I'm just going to close it down. I have some work to do. But I appreciate all the people that were here and all the takes from GoGo and from Kaiba, and Jace and Blockchain, Gremple, and anyone else I missed. Cram, of course, asking me, doxing my Blur allocation, my $600. How dare you? How dare you? And I will do some thinking tonight on what I'm gonna do. Do I hold it? Do I sell it for fiat? Do I buy an NFT on Blur? Right? Like, what about that? Unfortunately, they don't have 1155s. I got a couple 1155s I'm eyeing, if you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, it was a great launch, and congrats to everybody who got the Blur token, and maybe we can talk about it in a couple weeks and see. It's another thing to build on top of that token after TGE, and that's really where the juice comes from. It really comes from building on top of that and building the network effects and using a token to supplement your product and your ecosystem. Not like a token is not a product. Like that's evidence. That's evidenced by many token drops that have come out. A token should be used to incentivize people to use your product in a way that, you know, you otherwise wouldn't be able to in traditional technology and traditional finance. So I'll leave you all with that, and appreciate the time, and yeah, hop into our space. What is it, 6 o'clock? Bad take. We'll probably discuss Blur on that as well. But if it's up to me, I'd keep it to a minimum. I won't give you the full rundown. But yeah, peace out, everyone. Have a nice rest of your day.
Appreciate you, Vince.